difference. So I've been traveling the world solo since I'm 19 and full-time now as a digital nomad for a bit over a year. So I thought I might share like my best tips of how to stay safe in a foreign country, especially as a female solo traveler. So just a little recap for everybody who doesn't know me. Hi, my name is Amelie Zatzka. I'm a photo artist and digital nomad, and over the last years I've traveled to countries such as Nepal, Namibia, South Africa, Israel, Iceland, Australia, Colombia, most parts of Europe, USA, Canada, and a lot more countries. And so far I've never been robbed or even badly scammed, and luckily not raped or murdered or anything like that. So I think I learned a little bit of how to stay out of unpleasant travel experiences, and I want to tell you how I do it. So the first thing I usually do is to dress myself accordingly to the culture. Sadly, very often when I travel to new places, I'm very obviously a visitor because of my looks or my skin color. So I try to dress to fit into the culture a little bit more and to be more accepted and respected by the people of the country, which often means that I have to cover my shoulders or my knees, even if it's very hot. But I'm fine with that because I'm the visitor, and in the country makes the rules. So that was, for example, the case in Nepal and in Morocco, a lot of Muslim countries obviously, but also in some places in Israel it was the case. So I would just recommend you to inform yourself beforehand what is kind of the dress code in the country and pack accordingly to that. The second tip I have for you is to get a SIM card. I think that's something I would do no matter where I go now. It just gives me so much more safety and comfort and freedom as well to have a SIM card, and they're basically very cheap usually, and you can get them in almost every normal supermarket. I would never buy a SIM card at the airport because they're usually double the price as normal, but often it's the first thing when I go to an accommodation, settle down, leave my stuff there, and then I go to a supermarket and buy a SIM card. I did travel a lot of places without having a SIM card, like Israel, I did not have a SIM card, Nepal, I didn't have a SIM card, Australia, USA, Canada, so I did travel a lot of places without a SIM card, but looking back, it was just not really worth it. It was so much more dangerous, especially Israel, as I was traveling around alone in my car. And basically, I also did have to do some calls, which I had to do with my German SIM card then, and it was so fucking expensive, so it was not worth not getting a SIM card. The third tip I have for you is stand up for yourself in a polite but very determined way and be self-confident. Sadly, in a lot of cultures, especially if you're a young foreign woman, they try to scam you. They very often try to scam you, especially taxi drivers or travel guides. And it happened a bunch of times to me when I was already in a car with them, and then they changed the price or they wanted to have more or whatever. And I never paid more. I was usually really self-confident, and what helps is if you know what the service is worth, but even if you don't know it, just fake it that you know it, because you already agreed on a price probably beforehand, before you got in the car, hopefully. Always do it with taxis, always beforehand. But anyways, I always stood up for myself. I had a certain posture, a certain tone of my voice, which is kind of self-confident. And I just told him in a very polite but very determined way that I know what the service is worth. I know that what he's asking is total nonsense. And usually if they feel that you have some kind of strength and have a strong voice, are not shy or intimidated by them, they will back off. That's always what happened for me. I never got scammed by a taxi driver, but I heard it from a bunch of other travelers which I met along the way. The fourth thing might sound a little ridiculous to some people, but I always get receipts for any kind of services or things I pay for, especially if I have to pay in cash. So here, for example, in Bali, it was the case for my surf lessons. I had to pay in cash for 5 surf lessons in advance. I paid for my scooter in cash. And also like during travel so many times, like I had a 4-day Himalaya trek where like a guide showed us the way and he got like the money in advance, and I always, since I can think, I always ask for a receipt. It might sound, as I said, kind of ridiculous to some people, and most of my friends don't do it, but I just personally, especially if I have to pay in cash, I want to have some kind of evidence that I paid like this amount, because I also heard stories that you come back the next day and they like scam you, say like you have to pay something extra or that you didn't pay it or whatever. So I just want to have some evidence. And also what I realized is that the service provider or whoever gives you the receipt has kind of a little bit more respect for you, in the sense of that they know that they can't really mess with you and they behave to you differently afterwards. That's really what I realized a bunch of times now when I ask for a receipt. The fifth thing makes me actually a little sad, but sadly that's like the truth that I experienced in my years of traveling, is if a local guy wants to like show you around, show you like the non-touristic stuff, or wants to invite you to their houses or whatever, or to their home, 99% of the time it's not like a gesture of kindness, but it's more like that they want to score with you. And I don't want to scare you, because if you're up for that as well, you might just go along and have like the best experience and amazing time of your life. But I just really wanted to mention it because that was my experience. I personally made the mistake not once, not twice, but tons of times that I was like too enthusiastic that like a local person wants to show me around and show me like the non-touristic stuff and whatever. And more than once I ended up in a kind of uncomfortable situation with them. Luckily nothing ever really happened, like something bad happened, but it very surely also could have. So I'm much more aware of it. And I don't want to scare you. As I said, like I had also really good experiences, but I wanted to make you much more aware to follow your gut feeling, because usually you kind of have a feeling if the person is like truly honest and a good person, or if it's just like somebody who wants to score with you or whatever. So be aware of it, and usually there's something more behind it. It's not always like a kind gesture. My sixth tip is to ask locals about where to go and how to stay safe and how to keep your belongings safe. What I usually realize is that other tourists who like especially stay amongst tourists make themselves or get themselves really panicky about how to stay safe and where to go, and it's not always reasonable. So I much rather ask like the locals who live there how to stay safe, what they think, where I'm safe. Also questions like, is it safe to walk alone at night as a woman? Is it okay to take my camera, or is it like getting robbed right away? Is it like typical to get robbed? Is there like a certain area or street where you much rather like have to avoid or get robbed a lot? So questions like this, and the locals mostly know it much better than like the other tourists. And I try to avoid to like do the things that the locals say you should not do. Yeah, that's basically how I never got robbed so far, luckily. And the seventh and last tip I have for you is to have a health insurance. And if you have a lot of expensive equipment like I do, also like an equipment insurance, because that really eases your mind in a lot of different ways. I realized how important the health insurance is, especially here in the time now where I was in Bali. I didn't need it like any other health insurance so far, like during my travels, luckily. But like here in Bali, I've been sick so many times. I've been to the doctor like 3 times already, and I've only been here for a month. So yeah, I had like infected wounds like this one twice. And I had fever like 2 times, really heavy one with cough and a body ache and everything. So having a good health insurance really eases your mind and also really keeps you safe. And also like my equipment insurance is for me personally kind of important, because then I don't have to like worry all the time when I'm like walking with my camera or shooting new photos, or even like having my equipment here in my room. And when I didn't have my equipment insurance, I always hid it somewhere and whatever. And having equipment insurance just basically really eases my mind and makes me also more open to explore and really more curious about like documenting my travels as well. So these were 7 tips that just came off the top of my mind, how to stay safe and how to don't have any bad experience while traveling. If you have any other like suggestions, or you have some things that you follow when you're traveling solo as a female, you can write it down in the comments and we can like share our experiences. And if I come up with something else, I usually do, I will also write it in the comments. But generally, traveling alone is like the best thing I ever did. Like, I love traveling alone so much, and you hardly ever like travel alone in the sense of that you always meet amazing people. So most people are very kind and want the best for you. There are just a few who might want to scam you, but it is never the majority. So that's just like as a final word. So stay safe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.